So it's into the computer. Okay, so more on finding the roots given a root. So what would we do first on this problem here? Since we're given a root of 5, what would we do? Yeah, so we want to use synthetic division. So this 5 represents x minus 5 or x plus 5? X minus 5. So that would be, we're trying to look and see and divide by x minus 5. So would somebody do the synthetic division for me? So phones away, please, and in your backpack. Thank you. Would somebody do the synthetic division for me? Yep. Okay. Good. Yep. Yeah, that's a hard one to know. Good. It's going to be 75. And so we add and we get 0. Is that what we want? Yeah. So we want it to be a factor. It's said that 5 is a root already, and so we want it to be a factor. So we want it to have that remainder of 0. So now when we go to write this equation that's left over, what is this going to be? 4x to what exponent? To the third. So we started with 4x to the fourth, we divided by the x minus 5, and it became 4x to the third. Questions on that? Okay, so minus 3x squared minus 20x plus 15 is 0. And then what do we do next? Can we factor? Yeah, what kind of factoring are we going to do? Grouping, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. So what's the greatest common factor on the first one? X squared, 4x minus 3, right? And then what's the greatest common factor on the second parentheses? 5 or negative 5? Negative 5, because we want that what's inside that parentheses to be the same. So that's why we made it a negative 5. And so my two factors are x squared minus 5 times 4x minus 3 is 0. And what do we do next? Zero product property. So we have the x squared minus 5 is 0. And the 4x minus 3 is 0. Add 5, and we get x squared is 5. What undoes that square? Square root. So we get square root of 5 and negative square root 5. And then solve for x here. And we get 3/4 square root 5, negative square root 5, and then also the 5. Easy to forget that root that's given. Okay, there's 4 roots, and the degree is 4, so it matches. That's what we want. Okay, I'm going to quickly go through the next one because I want you to have some time to work on this. So we would start out with using our synthetic division. And again, we get 0, which is what we want. And then this equation here would be x to what exponent? Squared, because it was x to the third, and we divided, this is about like an x minus 3. Divided by the x, so minus 7x minus 5 is 0. And then what would we do next to solve that? Factor? Does it factor? It doesn't factor. So what do we do when it doesn't factor? Quadratic formula, very nice. Yes, so unfortunately we have to use quadratic formula. Because not all equations will factor. Whenever it's a quadratic and it doesn't factor, we'll use a quadratic formula. So your A is 1, B is -7, and C is -5. So we get the opposite of -7 plus or minus square root -7 squared minus 4 times 1 times -5 over 2 times 1. So inside that square root, we would get, it's a -5 because it's a -5. Oh, thank you. I wrote it down wrong. Thank you so much, because that would have been a problem. Good job. So then this here is a 5. So then when we go to solve that, this is going to simplify to 49 minus 20, which is 29. And so we get 7 plus or minus square root 29 over 2. So our solutions would be 7 plus square root 29 over 2, 7 minus square root 29 over 2, and 3. And if you wanted to write that as a plus or minus on that quadratic formula, that would be fine. Okay, go ahead and do the